So good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are still on the item Fatalism, which Elmo covered the last couple of weeks, but we still have some questions to go. We discussed a lot about it, so I think we can go directly to question 863, which is last week we stopped on 862. Again, this is law of freedom, and we are on 863. Philip. Oh, I think we lost Philip. He's not here. Well, I'll read and see if he comes back. 863. Do social customs often force people to follow one road rather than another? And is their choice of occupation often controlled by the opinion of those around them? Is the feeling that leads us to attach a certain amount of importance to the opinions of others an obstacle to exercising our free will? Philip, if you can take over, it's the answer on 863. You're on mute.
You say 860. Okay, where on 863? Very beginning?
Yeah, on the answer.
Social.
Traditions.
Social traditions and customs are established by human beings and not by God. If people submit them, it is because they want to, and their submission is an act of their free will. If they wanted to free themselves from those customs, they could do so. Then why do they complain? They should blame their pride rather than social customs, because pride makes them prefer to starve rather than stray from what they consider to be their dignity. Nobody thanks them for their sacrifice, though God would take note of the sacrifice of their vanity. We are not saying that you should resist public opinion or customs, as in the case of some people who are more eccentric than philosophical. It is just as absurd to allow others to point or stare at you like a curious animal as there is wisdom in voluntarily descending when you are unable to stay at the top of the ladder.
Thanks. So, continue on the discussion of free will, right? The question here from Kardec, and we have to remember that the society at the time of Kardec, when he asked these questions, was much more divided strongly between the classes and between social positions than it is today. Still today, of course, it still is, but there is more fluidity between social classes in the majority of the world. At the time of Kardec, the fluidity was much less. You know, when you have to remember there were still slaves. You were born a slave, you're probably going to die a slave. You were born on a lower class, you probably end your life in a lower class. And if you're born a noble, you don't work, and you end up inheriting and finishing as in the higher classes. So what Kardec is asking here, what happens to those that are constrained by society and end up being forced to make choices according to their social position? Where is the free will? And the answer from the Spirit is very clear, right? Social traditions and customs are established by human beings and not by God. They're not part of God's law. So everything that is created by humans, as we are not perfect, of course, is not perfect, and we have no obligation to follow. We can use, and we should use, our free will to choose the best path for ourselves. The spirits were very clear here and flexible in the sense that you you are not forced to follow social customs because if you decide to follow and you're suffering for this, it's because of your own pride that you cannot accept a different situation than what you are. But also, do not become an eccentric because you like to be different from the rest when it brings nothing useful to you. Also, right? Walk on the path that helps you grow morally and intellectually, uh, regardless of how it places you in the ladder of society. That's basically what the spirits are trying to tell us. Follow the rules. Yes, we live in society. We have to respect the rules of society. We are not going to rebel and disturb. You have the example of Jesus. Jesus didn't break any law. He just followed the law of his time and teach the followers how to interpret the law and the difference between human laws and God's law. He said, I didn't come to destroy the law. I came to fulfill the law. He was talking about God's law. Of course, society laws exist, and we have to respect. To live in society, you have to respect the rules of society, but you have to work to improve yourself, to evolve. And if that entails moving away from your social position or your social obligations, the spirits tells us, so be it. Just do it. Because what's important is for us, where we are here to evolve morally and intellectually. So we should use the place we are in our favor, not against us. If you have opportunities because your social position allows you to have good opportunities to grow morally and intellectually, take advantage of these opportunities. But if they are preventing you from growing morally and intellectually, then move in a different direction so you can continue growing. Okay? Questions, comments? Okay. 864.
While there are individuals to whom fate is unkind, there are others who seem to be favored because they succeed in everything they do. To what is this to be attributed? In many cases, they know how to best manage their lives and actions, but it may also be a type of trial. People are intoxicated by success. They put their trust in their destiny, and in the end, they pay for these successes by severe setbacks, which greater forethought would have enabled them to avoid.
Yeah, our superficial judgment of others normally makes us make these quick judgments, quick analysis, and think that some people are born lucky, some people are, don't do anything and they have everything in their favor. And you know, um, we have to put everything into perspective, right? We are here to evolve. We, before our reincarnation, we or the spirits who take care of it, choose the best path for us to succeed in our incarnation. And if this path entails us taking advantage of opportunities that are on our path to make us face the challenges we need to face, that may look easier for others, but it's difficult for us. That's what we have to go through. But many times, what happens is that people work hard for the success that they have, and we tend to look at the result and not at the process. If you think about the famous athletes, right, that win competitions and they are the best in their sports, it goes a lot of work goes for them to reach the level that they are. The phrase that I think is from Einstein, right? That success is 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration applies to everything in life. You know, these so-called lucky ones, they come with a 10% inspiration, but they use the 90% perspiration. And we tend to look at the result only, right? So we look at the cases of people that are very rich, which is something that is always discussed, right? And people say, oh, they are lucky, they inherited, they were blessed, they were born in a rich family, possibly, but everything has a purpose. All of these are opportunities for us. If we succeed on our path, professional, our lives, and we get the reward for it, how we put that into use for ourselves and for others is in the end what's going to be analyzed against the natural law. Of course, there are those that take advantage of others and become rich or become powerful and use their power to take advantage of others, to steal, to use shady ways. But again, if we fully accept and understand God's law and us as eternal spirits, we have to just understand that they will face the consequences of their actions, like we all do, right? Positive and negative consequences. So if someone is stealing left and right and causing harm to a lot of people, it's not going to be like this eternally. It may not end in this incarnation. They may go back to the spiritual world before they pay anything here on earth, but they will face the consequences. And those that read Spiritist literature, that you find a lot of cases of spirits in the lower zones suffering the consequences of their actions, right? In the book in the greater world, when André Luiz meets his grandfather, right? His grandfather is there grabbing mud, thinking there is gold, right? Because that's how he lived his life here, and the consequence, he goes back to the spiritual world thinking that trying to chase the gold there, completely unaware of his real situation. So let us try to be more understanding and acceptable of the people that have successes and analyze, the reasons for their success. If they merit it, if they did their job, good for them. They are taking advantage of what they built for them. If they are not, if they are taking advantage of someone else's work, they'll have to face the consequences eventually, right? Opportunities, for instance, people that are born in very rich families and inherit the opportunities for them to learn how to share the wealth to help others. If they fail to do that, and many fail, they're going to have to face the consequences in a more difficult incarnation. And we can be sure that we either had this opportunity already, or we are going to have this opportunity eventually in the future. So let us prepare ourselves to deal with it when we face it, so we can make good use of this opportunity that we are going to have if we didn't have it already. So successes are two-way street, right? What people do with their successes is, in the end, what matters. Okay.
865.
Yes.
How can we account for the luck that sometimes favors people under circumstances where neither will nor intelligence have a role, such as gambling, for example. Some spirits have chosen specific types of pleasure beforehand, and the luck that favors them is a temptation. Those who win as human beings lose as spirits, since luck is a trial for their pride and greed.
Yeah, so it's an obvious question, right? At the time, it was gambling. Today, still gambling is back with full force, right? With the possibilities of gambling on the phone, and a lot of people are falling victims of it. But the question here, we can think of a lottery, right? You buy a ticket, you win a lot of money in the lottery, in the lotto, right? Why? I didn't do anything. I didn't do any work. I just won a lot of money. Well, it's again, it's an opportunity, right? How are we going? Am I going to deal with all this money that suddenly uh, happened to fall on my lap, right? There are studies of those that win the lottery, right? That 6 months after the win, the level of happiness is back to where it was before. And a large majority of winners of big lotteries end up losing the money eventually because they don't know how to deal with it. But all of us, we all are always thinking, oh, if I win the lottery, I was going to do this or that, and maybe we'll, maybe we won't. It's difficult to say, right? But it's an opportunity. If we look at it as an opportunity for us to grow, how are we going to deal with the temptations that come with it, the opportunities that come with it, and how we are going to make use of this sudden wealth? The majority of us are not prepared. So what's the advantage for someone to win the lottery and then lose again? What did they in their spiritual progress? What is the purpose of that, right? Again, we are talking about free will, right? What do you do with all the money you got? Free will. You make your choices, you have opportunities, you can help those in need, put that it work for society to benefit from it, or you can start wasting the money and throwing away the money in wrong opportunities. Of course, when you win the lottery, suddenly you have 1,000 relatives coming to that suddenly remember that they are your relatives, right? Um, Opportunity to deal with them also, right? How you're going to deal with all those new relatives that you acquired when you became rich, right? Um, all goes back to this phrase that I like very much, how the spirits tells us here. Those who win as human beings lose as spirits, since such luck is a trial for their pride and greed. And most of us fail in this trial, and we fall victims of our pride and greed. So, if you have the opportunity, if something like this happens to you, breathe, and try to use it wisely, right, to help yourself and others. I had one colleague when I was working still in Brazil that used to say that if he won the lottery, he didn't want to see any of those around him poor. He would move away from everybody. So what do you do? It's again, we're talking about free will. We have choices. We have plenty of opportunities, but we have opportunities without it. We have opportunities every day. What we are doing with these opportunities, right? Okay.
866. Is the fate that seems to shape our material destinies a result of our free will. You yourself have chosen your trial. The more severe it is, the better you bear it, the higher you are elevated. Those who spend their physical lives selfishly enjoying wealth and happiness are cowardly spirits who remain stationary. The number of those who are unfortunate is much greater in your world than those who are fortunate, because spirits generally choose the trial that will be most useful to them. They too clearly see the futility of your splendor and pleasures. Besides, the most fortunate life is always agitated, always troubled, if only by the absence of pain.
Yeah. So if we can choose our trials, we are going to, when we are there in the spiritual world, we normally choose the trials and atonements that we have a better chance of succeeding. Of course, guided and assisted by our spiritual benefactors. But if we are not in condition of participating in our reincarnation program, the spirits that take care of it are also going to place us where we have the best opportunity to succeed. But what happens is that we come here, we forget, we fall back to our old habits, our imperfections, and we end up uh, really not evolving much. As they say here, are cowardly spirits who remain stationary, right? We never stay 100% stationary, because even when you are not doing anything, this not doing anything will serve as a learning for the future. When we look back, we will have learned that that was a wasted opportunity. Of course, because we live in a world of trials and atonements, we have a lot more spirits that are going to struggle, that are going to face difficulties, and spirits that had good opportunities and missed these opportunities are going to uh, not have those opportunities again, or will have those opportunities in a much more challenging way. So uh, we we use our free will to guide our lives to where we want it to go. Again, we go back to free will. We come, yes, we talked about it. The only fatalism is the the moment we're born and the moment we die. The rest, we can use our free will to change it. So we are talking about fatalism here, right? Where we are born, where we live, the conditions. These are not fatalism. These are opportunities. These are all opportunities that we may use to our advantage, or like most of us do, misuse it and end up making life more complicated for ourselves. And the futility of those that live in life of, as they say here, splendor and pleasures, it makes the opportunity to improve more difficult, because you are too distracted by the advantages that you have in life. You are distracted by the opportunities of doing nothing useful, and to get lost in the distractions of our physical lives, right? And the more we progress, and the more opportunity we create for our lives, the pleasures of material lives, the more difficult it becomes for us to overcome and look beyond this futility that can be a physical life. And we have this futility all around us, in the TV programs, in everything that surrounds us. So we have to have we need the ability to see beyond that, to see what's important for us, what is a distraction, and what is important for us on our evolutionary path. Okay.
867.
Yeah.
Where does the expression born under a lucky star originate? From an old superstition that connected the stars with the destiny of each human being, a metaphor that some people are foolish enough to take literally.
Yeah. The expression born under a lucky star, people that apparently have luck everywhere, every choice they make, they are lucky, right? And this expression comes from that. There is this belief that everything that we are is connected, since we are born, is connected to a star or to a constellation or something like that, right? For those that study astrology, they have their beliefs that everything is connected directed by the stars, and I'm not going to discuss here because there are some reasons that are understandable behind it, but not in the horoscopes that you read in the newspapers. But anyway, there is the expression comes with from a superstition. It's not an expression that that is real in that sense. Okay, all right. We're finished with fatalism here. Now we're going to talk about foreknowledge of the future. So before we talk about foreknowledge of the future, I'm going to, just remind everyone, how can we predict the future according to what we understand from Spiritism, right? Because we have free will and because we studied the difference between fatalism, free will, and if we talk about foreknowledge of the future, something is supposed to happen, it's going to happen, then this is fatalism and is removing free will from it, right? So something is not right there. So the best example that I learn is the one I use all the time, right? You go to the top of a mountain, you see a car coming up the mountain, and you see that there is a big hole that if the car doesn't stop, is going to fall into the hole. So you are forecasting the future for the car. You're telling you this car is going to fall into the hole. Now, before the car arrives at the hole, the driver decides to stop for some reason. He gets a flat tire. He decides to go back. No, I don't want to go anymore. So you see all the free will playing in the future, in the preventing the future from happening. So the forecast that I made of the future of the car is, if nothing changes, that's what's going to happen. The car is going to continue, it's going to fall into the hole. I can make this prediction of the future because I'm seeing what's going to happen. Now, if anything happens in the middle, because of the free will of the person driving the car and all other aspects of the journey, the future may not happen for that person and that car. So I think that is the example that defines the foreknowledge of the future. Now, this is a very simple and very easy example. Now, if you think of evolved spirits, right, much more evolved than us, that have a much better understanding of humankind as a whole, humankind tendencies, humankind behaviors, don't you think that they have the ability to predict the future with much more accuracy than we do? Yes. It doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen, but it's more likely to happen because they have a more ample understanding and view. And if you think about a perfect spirit like Jesus, of course, Jesus can predict the future with a much greater accuracy than others. But even these predictions of a perfect spirit are subject to the free will of those involved. So we are owners of our acts and our decisions. No spirit can force us to do anything one way or the other, good or bad. So because of that, our future depends only on ourselves, on our free will, on our choices. Spirits can predict the future based on our qualities, imperfections, and a spirit can predict that tomorrow I'm going to wake up and have breakfast. I've been doing this every day, so it's a very good prediction, right? But nothing prevents me from waking up tomorrow and late and skip breakfast because I decided that I have something more important to do. Again, very good prediction. I've been doing that for every day most of my life, so I should do it tomorrow. But so that was the idea of foreknowledge of the future, and now we're going to go through the question.
There's also the cause and consequence, right?
Yes.
As an observer, you observe the same event happening 10 times, and all 10 times you generate the same consequence. Then you observe again for the 11th time what you're going to predict.
The same consequence. But it's not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But the law of probability is on
yes.
the side of it if you're a gambling person.
Yeah, no, probability is a science. The law of probability is a science. So it's very likely that it's going to happen, but it's not 100% guaranteed that it's going to happen, right?
So in also law, before the War II coming, they were already preparing for the war there, right? Remember?
Yes.
So the chapter is a whole preparation to receive all deal with this kind.
Yeah. Okay.
68.
Yeah.
Can the future be revealed to human beings? As a rule, the future is hidden from them. It is only in rare and exceptional cases that God permits it to be revealed.
Again, we don't fully understand God, right? God is the creator, so God has all the knowledge possible. So if you're going to say that God knows the future, it's very possible, very likely, but that's as far as we can go, right? Again, God gave us free will, so God knows what we are going to do with our free will also, right?
And philosophically, God being omnipresent, God is also present in the future.
Yeah. Time is a different concept for us and for God. We talked about this on Q&A on Sunday, right? To discuss time, right? So can God allow it to be revealed? Well, God can do anything, right? Everything.
69.
Yeah.
Why is the future hidden from human beings? If they knew the future, they would ignore the present and would not act with the same freedom. They would be swayed by the thought that if a specific event is to happen, there is no need to worry about it, or they would seek to prevent it. God did not want it to be this way, so that all people would contribute in the accomplishment of God's designs, even those designs they would want to prevent. Therefore, you often prepare the way for the events that occur over the course of your lifetime without even being aware of it.
Yeah, as I mentioned many times here, right? At our level of evolution, in general, we're lazy. We don't want to make any effort. That's in our second nature as imperfect spirits. So if we know the future, we're not going to make any effort one way or the other, right? So if someone guarantees that, which again, we said it is impossible, but if someone guarantees that you are going to have everything you need in 6 months' time, just wait, you're going to wait. You're not going to do anything, right? If you're working or quit work, you count your money if you can wait 6 months, and you are not going to make any effort. You're going to and according to our imperfection, trying to enjoy life until it becomes even easier to enjoy life. So we cannot have the future in front of us in that sense. Now, can we have hints of the future? We just have to look at ourselves, right? We look at our behavior, we knowing ourselves, we can look into the future and make some predictions for ourselves because we know our imperfections. If we look at them seriously, we know our qualities, so we know what we can accomplish. There is a lot of life coaches that talk about do not focus on the result, focus on the process, right? Because in the end, the process is what builds the result, that generates the result. And what they're talking here is if we knew the result, we wouldn't do the process, right? Someone comes and says, you're going to break the world record of swimming. We spoke about swimming in the next year. You don't train, right? Going to break the record in 1 year. Why would I train then when I'll jump in the pool and break the record? If you don't know what's going to happen and you have a competition in 1 year, then it's the process. You are going to work for it. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the future, but if you make the effort, you know you are going to get a good result. Maybe not what you want. Like students, right? They prepare for tests, right? They study. If they study hard, if they prepare, and they know their ability to deal with the pressure and everything, they more or less know how they are going to do in the tests, right? I never forgot. I had a teacher in high school who used to say that the good student, the night before the test, goes to the movies, right? Because if you are prepared, you study the whole time, when the test comes, you're prepared. You don't need to study the last night. You go to the movies, right? And I never forgot about that. And of course, I never met anyone who did that. but it's true. It's the process, right? So what happens to us, our lack of knowledge of exact knowledge of the future is what makes us move forward, which is what makes us learn, make an effort, try to understand better ourselves, understand better our surroundings, and work to progress. That's the result of our day-to-day journey. And again, God's laws are perfect. So if we don't know the future, it's because it's better for us not to know the future.
Well, in this case, we kind of come back to the cause and consequence. Like if you put effort, you have a better result. If you don't put effort, you don't get a better result. But the end goes back to the law of cause and consequence.
Cause and consequence, yeah, exactly.
It's that the other lesson, the beginner thing, gonna go through the whole thing again. of the two Indian boys, the Indian tell who got lost. Remember the tell? One, there wasn't meant to predict the time. He predicted the one would become a king in 1 year, and that one would die in 1 year.
Yeah.
The one who was supposed to become a king had already started acting as a king, started boss people around and say, when I be a king, you're gonna go to jail, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. And the one who was supposed to die, since in the tradition they know that the extra life, he started preparing for that extra life. All the good that he could do, gave away his stuff, so he's not gonna get anymore, become very charitable. A year passed, nothing happened. They decided to go see the man who predicted time. On the way there, they find a big treasure, a lot of money they'll make. The one that's supposed to be king a king. Since they're the one who's supposed to die anyway, they don't want anything to do with it. This so happens that the treasure belonged to a bunch of thieves. They came in, take the treasure back, and in a fight, the one who's supposed to die got injured his legs, and they run away, and the one who's supposed to be a king was left with a small packet of coins. So they go to the man who predicted time. The time said, "Listen, you got it wrong." No, I didn't. I was told it before. I tell you that the future is not written in stone, and you make your future. You were supposed to become a king in 1 year, but we chose to become a king even before being crowned. That was taken away from you. You were supposed to die in 1 year, but you did so much good work that instead of death, you just got the injured leg. So you modified your future, your destiny with your action.
It's perfect. Perfect description of what it is, the prediction of the future against the free will of those that are going to go through the experience, right?
And in the case of swimmer, you go to the guy and say, you're going to break a record in 1 year is one thing. And then you go to the guy and say, if you continue to work as hard as you are, if you continue to improve your time as you are, you have a good chance of breaking the record in 1 year, whatever time. It's completely different thing.
But it's kind of predicting the future, but based on
but there is a if.
If there is always an if. Yeah.
If you do your part.
Yeah. Okay. 870.
Since there is a practical reason only the future is hidden, why does God sometimes permit it to be revealed? Because in such cases, this foreknowledge facilitates the accomplishment of what is to be, rather than hinder it, by making the persons to whom it is revealed act in a different manner than they would otherwise act. In addition, it is often a trial. The prospect of an event may awaken more or less honorable thoughts. For example, if individuals learn that they will receive an inheritance that they had not expected, they may be tempted by greed, by elation at the prospect of increasing their worldly pleasures, or by a desire for the death of their benefactor, so that they may obtain it sooner. On the other hand, this prospect may awaken good and generous thoughts in them. If the prediction is not fulfilled, it is a test of how they bear disappointment. They acquire the merit or reproach of the good or bad thoughts they have by their expectation of the event anticipated.
Yeah. Again, sometimes we see people talking about predictions of the future that came to be realized, right? So the question is, what's the purpose of that? Again, going back to my first example, if I'm there predicting that the car is going to fall into the hole, I'm predicting the future. Someone next to me may say, wow, you predicted the car was going to fall, and it did, right? I was based on facts, I was predicting the future. So the opportunity that some people receive of learning of something that may happen in their future is, again, an opportunity. What they do with this opportunity, right? As they say here, you learn that you're going to receive an inheritance, and this is something that many people know, because many people know the wills of those who are older, and know that they are included in their will, or in some cases, for instance, in Brazil, the will, big part of it is mandatory that you leave to the spouse or the kids. So, how you're going to prepare for that, what you're going to do with this opportunity. And the Spirit tells us how you are going to do it. You're going to be tempted by greed, by increasing your worldly pleasures. Are you going to desire that the person dies sooner so you can receive your inheritance? But on the other hand, it can create good opportunities. Nothing happens without a reason. So if we are receiving an opportunity to learn about our future, first we have to understand, and studying this, that this opportunity, it's a probability, it's not a guarantee, and it gives us an opportunity of making good use for our progress of this, because it's an opportunity for us to grow. And if the prediction doesn't happen, how do we deal with disappointment, right? Like the famous case that happened in France, right? In France, you can sell your house before you die and continue living until you die. Of course, you sell for a cheaper price, right? And the person waits for you to die to take possession of the house. And there was this famous case of this guy that sold the house when he was 80, and he lived to be 110, and the person who bought the house died before him, right? And so again, you can imagine the frustration of the person who bought the house and the family, right? Yeah. So it's how to deal with the opportunities, the disappointments, and our thoughts, as they say here, our good or bad thoughts, by the expectations of what's going to happen. Okay.
871.
Yeah.
God knows everything, including whether people will succeed or fail in a given trial. What is the purpose of this trial, since it shows God nothing that is not already known about those individuals? You might as well ask why God did not create humans perfect, or why human beings have to experience childhood before arriving at adulthood. The purpose of a trial is not to enlighten God regarding the merit of humankind. God knows exactly what they are worth, but to make human beings fully accountable for their behavior, since they have free will. People are free to choose between good and bad, and trials serve to tempt them or prove their resistance, leaving them all the merit for resisting it. Even though God knows well in advance whether they will succeed or not, out of divine justice, God cannot reward or punish them other than according to the actions they have committed. The same principle exists in the world of human beings. Regardless of the qualifications of a given group of candidates or our confidence in their success, no grade can be granted until the proper test has been passed. This is the same as with a judge who can condemn only accused individuals for the crimes they have actually committed, and not on the presumption that they could or would commit a crime. The more we reflect on the consequences that would result from our knowledge of the future, the more clearly we see God's divine wisdom in hiding it from us. The certainty of good fortune in the future would make us lazy, while future despair would plunge us into depression or discouragement. In both cases, our activities are paralyzed. This is why the future is shown to human beings only as a goal that they must reach through their own effort, without knowing the sequence of events that they will experience in attaining it. The foreknowledge of all the events of their respective journeys would deprive them of their initiative and the use of their free will. They would submissively allow themselves to be led by the circumstances without any exercise of their faculties. When the success of something is certain, we no longer worry about it.
Okay. So the obvious question, right? If God knows everything, why God makes us go through all of this? It's the same question that people normally ask, why God did not create us perfect, right? And, if God created all spirits perfect, then the universe didn't need to exist, right? So what's the purpose of the universe? Again, you can reflect philosophically, but of course, God, as we discussed, God knows everything, and God, as I almost said, is omnipresent, so it is in the past, in the present, in the future, and sees everything. But God creates us simple and unaware, simple and ignorant, and we make our own journey until perfection. So the fatalism here, we are going to become perfect spirits one day. How long is going to take? Free will comes into play to decide for us to decide how long is going to take. And trials and atonements are the path of progress, right? Trials, opportunities to learn things that we don't know, and atonements, readjustments for mistakes we made and we haven't learned from those mistakes. So we have the freedom to choose between good and bad, and the trials and atonements are part of our progress. God knows everything, of course, but God creates the natural laws, which are perfect. So we evolve according to these natural laws, and we are rewarded by our own merit, which in the end is what really matters, right? It doesn't make sense for us to progress through the merit of others. We need to progress through our own merits. And then Kardec makes a long comment here about, making some good analogies of students that have to take the test, because until they take the test, they cannot be graded, or a judge that condemns someone who committed a crime, not someone that is supposed to commit a crime. Of course, as a society, we have to create mechanisms that can prevent individuals that are in risk of causing harm to society, to protect society against them. But we cannot put someone in jail because he has a tendency, or he or she has a tendency to commit a crime. We can try to prevent them from committing a crime, and that's something that is being done in every society, but not punishing someone for a crime they did not commit because they have the chance of committing, right? So Kardec talks here what I mentioned, right? The certainty of good fortune in the future will make us lazy, and if we know of something bad, would make us fall into depression or in discouragement, right? So the result is paralyzing. So that's why future is, as Kardec says, is shown to human beings as a goal that we must reach through our own effort. So the prediction of the future here is always based on our day-to-day action and how we behave. So yes, we can predict the future based on the information we have today. Guarantee the future because it depends on the free will, our free will, and sometimes the free will of others, right? Going back to the swimmer, right? You tell him or her, if you continue applying yourself the way you are, you continue progressing, you have a good chance of breaking the world record. But we don't know others that are making the same or more effort or have even more abilities. So they are going to break the world record and you are not. So you did everything that was within your reach to do it, but you couldn't because someone was better than you. So, it's the partial prediction of the future based on the information you have, but it's no guarantee. So that's foreknowledge of the future. Okay. Any final comments, questions? We're stopping here. This week we are going to go in the theoretical explanation of the motive behind human action, which is a long passage that we are going to have to divide in probably 2 or 3 passages. Okay, so what do we have? On Saturday, we have a talk by Susana Simões from Conscious Living. She's going to talk about thought and will, which is a little bit related to what we just studied here, right? This Sunday is the 5th Sunday of the month, so we are going to study the Gospel according to Spiritism. Elmo is going to present the introduction of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Wednesday, book club is going to be chapter 9 of the book Ardus Ascension by Vitor Hugo and Divaldo Franco. And I think that's it for us. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you so much, John, for hosting, and thank you, Elmo, as well. And Philip, thank you for reading for us this evening, and I think you're feeling better. You sound better. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Spirit Book 3, Chapter 10, the topics being fatalism, finishing up fatalism, and the foreknowledge of the future. Human beings create social traditions and customs through free will. These are not God's laws. Walk on a path that assists with the improvement of moral and intellectual development. Follow human laws in a particular society and a particular time frame. We are quick to judge and analyze others by their outward results rather than by their hard work, especially by those who appear fortunate or lucky. Excuse me. Do they merit their success or opportunities? How would we actually use a sudden windfall of good fortune or money? Hopefully, we would choose the opportunities which will help us succeed when we reincarnate. Evolved spirits may have clearer insights and views of the future. Generally, our future depends on choices, free will, cause and consequence. Fortunately, the future is hidden from us, so we will be accountable and won't avoid certain experiences for our evolution. God creates the natural laws, and we are rewarded through our own merits and effort. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth now and remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it. Thank you.